problem. It's strange. It's probably something you might not be used to. So let's check out what's happening here. And just before I start, a common wrong answer that I see over here is B. And if you put B, I'm assuming you just FOIL this out. And that's not what the question's asking. The question's not saying, hey, what's this thing FOILed out, right? The question is saying which of the following functions does the minimum value of f of x appear as a coefficient? So think about what a minimum value is of a parabola. Because this is a quadratic, right? When you FOIL this out, you get a squared. So that means when you graph it, it would be a parabola, something like this. And a minimum is really the vortex. So what the problem is looking for is this rearranged into vortex form. So for that reason, I can probably cross out answer choice A and B because they're not in vortex form. But if you look at answer choice, actually A could be in vortex form, so I take that back. So I can at least cross out B because B is not in vortex form. And check this out. Maybe you remember this from your classes, but this is the vortex form. Something that looks like this, where the H and the K, the H is your X and the K is your Y. So for example, right here, this would be the H comma K. And you can kind of see that over here, over here, over here, over here. So these really represent your vortex. So now let's figure out how we can use this right here to figure out what the vortex will be. So the zeros here are -1, right? Because if you set this equal to 0, x plus 1 equal to 0, you get x to be -1. And if you do the same with the x minus 5, you get x to be 5. So that means that this parabola intersects the x-axis at -1 and 5. Okay, this is an ugly parabola, but let's see if we can make it a little bit better. Let's say something like that. Wow, that's really, really terrible. So let's see. So now this will be the vortex here, right? Keep one thing in mind. The vortex of a parabola is always right dead in the center of the parabola. So if this is -1 right there, and that's 5, think about what this point will be. It has to be in the middle. So the distance from 5 to -1 is 6. So it has to be a 3 away from 5, and it has to be 3 away from -1. So that will make this number 2. So I know that the H right there needs to be 2. So it's really going to read something like this, x minus 2 squared plus whatever the y is. Now, since I know that, I can actually just pick C, because see how that one shows you the x coordinate for the vortex right there? And now if you're wondering how to figure out the -9, all you would have to do is, since now I know that that point is 2, I can just plug that 2 back in here and here and figure out the y value, because f of x is the same thing as y. So let's try doing that. It'd be 2 plus 1 times 2 minus 5, so that's 3 times -3, which is -9. So now you can see how why that's -9, because that tells me that the y value is -9 and k is the y value, so the k right there would be -9. And that's why this equation is x minus 2 squared minus 9, making C my answer.